Hi, welcome to our live Skype in the Classroom event, Discovering Dinosaurs. We are so excited. We have people joining us from all over the world. We have people joining us from, I saw Bahrain, I saw Hungary, Poland, let's see, multiple states in India and provinces all over Canada, as well as Wales, England, lots of different countries. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. My name is Laura Beth, and I'm an educator at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. And you can't see them yet, but I'm joined by some friends and fellow educators, Sam and Lucas. And you'll actually get a chance to meet Sam in just a few minutes as she has some awesome fossils to share. Lucas is going to be behind the scenes, so you will see him in the chat, moderating the chat and answering your questions. And we know that you guys will have lots and lots of questions. That's great. We love that. Make sure, just don't forget, at any point in the program, if you think of a question, you can type it into the chat. And we will answer some of those questions live on screen, and some of them we will answer just in the chat. So we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. We may not have time for all of them, but we will do our best. All right, so before we dive into the world of dinosaurs, I am going to show you where we are in the world. So I have a world map to show you guys, and you can give us a thumbs up if you're seeing it. You should be looking at a world map right now and try to find yourselves on this map. Can you find the country where you are? I will point out where I am. Me and Sam and Lucas, we are in this area here where there's a blue star. We are in southeastern United States. And we had many people joining us from the United States, right? And Canada, close to home. And then, of course, some people as far away as Europe and the Ukraine and different countries in Asia. So, again, we are so excited. So if I were to zoom in on this blue star, I can show you our museum. This is the museum where we work, the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, and we're located in Raleigh, North Carolina. We love our museum. We have a giant globe here on the outside of our building. And on the inside of our building, we've got lots of fun stuff. We have live animals on exhibit. We have research labs where you can watch scientists doing their jobs. We have, let's see, of course, we have dinosaur bones and dinosaur skeletons, what we're going to focus on today. So normally, when we're doing our jobs, we are in our museum and we're connecting one-on-one with classrooms through the Skype in the Classroom community, right? But today, our lives are very different. Like a lot of you, we are at our homes and we can't visit museums. We can't visit sometimes even our favorite restaurants or our favorite parks. But we are so excited that we're still able to share our museum with you, and we're able to connect with you from our homes to yours. So thank you again for tuning in. And I'm going to go ahead and dive in so that we can explore the world of dinosaurs. And to do that, we have to travel back in time. We're going to go really far back in time to the Mesozoic era. So you now should be seeing a picture of a lot of different dinosaurs. It's going to show some dinosaur diversity. And the Mesozoic era happened millions of years ago. It's known as the Age of Reptiles. So if we look at the beginning of the Mesozoic era, here in the Triassic period, we've got an explosion in the diversity of reptiles on Earth. We've got reptiles flying in the sky, things like pterodons. We've got reptiles swimming in the sea, right? Like we might call them ichthyosaur, mosasaur. And then, of course, we have these reptiles that start walking on land, and we call those dinosaurs. So right here, I want to point out with my arrow the Eoraptor. It's a smaller dinosaur, one of the smallest in this picture. And the Eoraptor, their name actually comes from the Greek word Eos. We had some of you joining from Greece, so you probably recognize that word. Eos, for those of you who don't know Greek, Eos means dawn. So we can think of this as the dawn of the dinosaurs right here in the Triassic period. As we move further along in time, we're going to be in the Jurassic period. And I'm sure plenty of you recognize this word, Jurassic, because of some famous books and movies, right? We've got some of these huge, hulking, long-necked dinosaurs, some of the largest animals that ever walked on land on Earth. And now we're going to fast forward even further through time, and we're going to land in the Cretaceous period. Now, if I were to ask you guys what your favorite dinosaurs were, you can go ahead and type those in, but I bet some of you would say your favorite dinosaur is the T-Rex. In fact, you can go ahead and give us a nice growl if your favorite dinosaur is the T-Rex. And if your favorite dinosaur is the Triceratops, you can maybe make some Triceratops horns, right? And maybe some of you will say that your favorite is the Velociraptor. So a lot of these very famous, very popular dinosaurs are here at the end of the Mesozoic era and the Cretaceous period. And as you can see, there's a lot of diversity in the dinosaurs. They existed on Earth for about 180 million years. And that is very, very hard for us to imagine, millions of years. So I'll put it into perspective for you. The T-Rex is closer in time to us than it is to something like the Stegosaurus. So there's about 65 million years separating us from the T-Rex, and there's about 80 million years separating the Stegosaurus from the T-Rex. So even though we thought that a lot of these dinosaurs lived together, you know, sometimes that's not always the case. And so moving along in our story of dinosaurs, there was a major event that happened about 65 million years ago, right here at the end of the Mesozoic era. What was that event? What was that big event in Earth's history? So an asteroid the size of Mount Everest crashed into the Earth, and it caused a path of destruction, right? It killed off half of the animals that were living on Earth. And there were other animals besides dinosaurs. There were frogs and snakes and fish, plants, right? And so half of these creatures died off, right? Including most of the prehistoric dinosaurs. There was a group of dinosaurs that survived, and we call those birds. So that group of dinosaurs evolved over the past millions of years, and now they are modern day birds. So no matter where you guys are, I bet you can experience birds somehow, either hearing their songs or seeing them fly outside. So it's really exciting that we are still seeing dinosaurs around today. Of course, they are not the way we usually picture dinosaurs, right? So people were not alive in the Mesozoic era. So we don't have nice drawings of dinosaurs. We don't have pictures of dinosaurs. So how do we know that they were around? These big creatures? We find fossils, right? So every fossil is kind of like a puzzle piece that we can use to put together this whole picture of prehistoric Earth. And there are paleontologists who study fossils, who study living things that have been dead for millions of years. And there are multiple ways that things can become a fossil. Right, so we're just going to talk about a couple of ways because we don't have a whole lot of time. But I want you to think about the ways that something can become fossilized. They can become something that is perfectly preserved. So something can get trapped in water and then frozen in ice. Something can get trapped in tar and it can get stuck like that. I have an example of a fossil that is like that. It's a perfectly preserved specimen, and this is not the best fossil specimen. You may not be able to see the animal inside of it, but I want you to go ahead and type in if you have a guess as to what kind of fossil this is. I'll give you a second to think about that. Let's see, it's yellow, it's hard. If you said that this is amber, you are correct. So thousands of years ago, the tree sap was oozing and oozing from the tree, and an insect got caught in its path, and it got stuck in that tree sap, and it dried to form amber. So what's really cool about these perfectly preserved fossils is that if the fossil is young enough, sometimes we can actually get chemicals from it, like DNA, right? Sometimes we can actually get some DNA from these kinds of specimens. And I know that you guys are wondering, can we get DNA from dinosaurs? The prehistoric dinosaurs are too old, so their DNA has like broken down completely. So we can't get DNA from dinosaurs, but maybe from some of the insects that are a little bit younger. They're still really old. Okay, so another way that things can become fossils is in a process that takes millions and millions of years, and it requires some very special environmental conditions. So an animal, maybe it dies and it gets buried very, very quickly by mud and dirt. And over the years, more dirt, more sediment covers that animal. And as the layers of dirt build up on top of the animal, so does the pressure. The pressure builds and builds and builds, and minerals that normally make up rocks, they start oozing into the living tissue. And so the minerals start replacing the organic matter that's usually found in living things. So I have an example of that right here. I have a real fossil in my hand. And this is kind of a trick because one of these is actually just a rock and one of these is a fossil. So in that way, when things become fossilized that way, they still, they're the same material as a rock. They're hard as a rock. Maybe they have the same colors as a rock, but they have the patterns and the texture of the living thing that it came from. So I want you guys to think about which one you think is a rock and which one you think is a fossil. We're going to call this specimen A, and this one specimen B. So you can type in your answers into the chat. Which one do you think is a real fossil? Which one do you think is a rock? I'll give you some time to think about it, and I'll turn them around so that you can get another angle, another view. A or B? All right, so if you said A, you are correct. Specimen A is a real fossil. In fact, this is a fossil from a turtle that used to live in North Carolina millions of years ago. It is a bone from that turtle. Specimen B is just a piece of granite. But I'll give you one of the paleontologists' tricks of the trade. What they're looking for when they're out in the field looking for fossils, if they see something and they think, is it a rock, is it a fossil? They're gonna look for these kinds of textures. So from the side, we can see these tiny little circles. And this is like a spongy layer in the middle of the bone. And what this actually shows us is where blood vessels used to travel through the bone. So this is like the side of the bone, and the blood vessels would have traveled down like that. Very, very cool. So this is an example of a body fossil. And Sam has so many awesome body fossils that she's going to show us in just a minute. But before I pass it off to Sam, I just want to share with you another type of fossil. And these are called trace fossils. They can become fossils in the same way as a body fossil, but they show us different things. So they're not actually body parts like teeth or claws or bones. They are instead things that were created by a dinosaur. So these are just two examples of trace fossils. This one, this is a footprint. So we can learn a lot from footprints. We can learn how fast or slow an animal had to move. We can learn if they walked in big groups or if they were solitary. And of course, we can tell how many toes they had, right? Can you count how many toes this one had? 3 toes. Great job. And this is another example of a trace fossil. It's about the size of my head. This is a dinosaur egg. So you can only imagine like the things that we can learn when we find dinosaur eggs, right? Lots of things about their reproductive cycles. And last but not least, this is my favorite trace fossil. I'm going to show it to you on camera. I want you to observe this and make some guesses as to what you think it might be. Now remember, it's not a body part. It's something that a dinosaur would have created. And if you don't know, I'll give you a hint. It happened after the dinosaur was eating. So it would eat and eat and eat lots of food, and then it would make this. So you can type your guesses into the chat, or you can shout it out in your room. This is poop. It's fossilized poop, and we call it a coprolite, right? But if I smell it, it doesn't smell like poop. If I try to squish it, I can't. It's hard as a rock. It's turned into stone, right? But what I can learn from this, I could break it open and I might find fossilized bones. I might find fossilized plant matter. And I can learn a lot when I find fossilized poop. Or a coprolite. Remember, that's your fancy paleontologist word for the day is coprolite. So great job if you guessed that it was a coprolite. And this is just another one of those puzzle pieces that we use to put together the whole picture of prehistoric Earth. So I hope you guys have fun learning about some trace fossils. I am going to pass things off to Sam because I know you guys have had a lot of questions. She's going to answer some of those questions, show you some awesome body fossils, and then I'll be back for our selfie opportunity.
Hello. Again, my name is Sam. I also am an educator at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. And we had some awesome questions in the chat. We're trying to answer as many as we can in chat. But if we don't get to yours, we're sorry. We're going to try it as best as possible. But the first question that I wanted to answer on camera was from Vishnavi. They were wondering who discovered dinosaurs. And officially, the first person to coin the term dinosaur is Sir Richard Owen, who was an English scientist who called them dinosaurs. That term came around 1840, that means terrible lizard. But we actually think that a lot of our myths and the things that we think of like dragons and things like that were actually came about by people in ancient civilizations that actually found dinosaur bones and were looking for a way to explain them. So if you found like a big T-Rex head and you were like, oh, it must have come from a dragon, right? So that we think that people have been finding dinosaur bones for a really, really long time, just calling them different things. Emily wanted to know what the biggest and the smallest dinosaurs were. And the biggest dinosaur that we found is called Patagotitan. It was found in Argentina. It's the type of sauropod or a long-necked dinosaur, which I'll talk about in a little bit. It was found, it's 37 meters long or 121 feet, which is like the size of 4 buses back to back. And then it's also like about 70 metric tons, which is almost as much as 10 African elephants is how much it weighs. And the smallest dinosaur is actually the bumblebee hummingbird, because we know that modern day birds are actually dinosaurs. So there's little birds that are about 2 inches or 7 centimeters big. So that one is our smallest dinosaur still living today. And then Dia wanted to know, were dinosaurs found in the Arctic region? And yes, dinosaurs are found all over the world, including in the Arctic regions. Pachyrhinosaurus was found above the Arctic Circle, and there are also some lambeosaurs or duck-billed dinosaurs that were found in the Arctic Circle. So you can find dinosaurs everywhere in the world. All right, so like Laura Beth was mentioning, I have a lot of really cool fossils to show you. And as I'm showing you these fossil replicas, feel free to keep on asking questions in the chat. Again, we'll try to get to those as much as we can. But most dinosaur body fossils that are found are what we call microfossils, or fossils that you can only see if you look under a microscope. So the ones that I have here today are bigger, they're macrofossils. They're the ones that you can see, and they're from more popular dinosaurs. So the first 2 that I'm going to show you are actually dinosaur teeth. And there's a lot of diversity in dinosaur teeth. So not all dinosaur teeth look like our teeth today. These are the 2 that I wanted to show you. This is the first one that we're going to get to talk about. And this is actually a lot of different teeth all in one. And then this is another one that I'm going to get to talk about, which is just 1 tooth. But if you look, it's almost shaped like a spoon or an ice cream scoop, right? And so the first ones that I showed you are from our duck-billed dinosaurs, our hadrosaurs. And these are a lot of little teeth all put together in one surface used for grinding, which we call a dental battery. And if you were to take like 1 fifth and take another fifth, and you were to grind them both together, that would be like how a hadrosaur eats, or a duck-billed dinosaur eats. These ones were the Edmontosaurus, like this. They were the Parasaurolophus, like this one, with the crest on the back of the head. And again, that duck bill And they were our herbivores. They ate plants. And yeah, that was our duck-billed dinosaur. The other one, the other tooth that I showed you was this tooth right here. Again, looks like a spoon if you were to rotate around it. This one belongs to a sauropod, or our long-necked dinosaurs, the ones that looked more like this, right? Really, really long necks, really, really long tails. This one is a diplodocus, but the tooth that I showed you actually came from what we call a Camarasaurus, and that one, their teeth were shaped like spoons because what they did was, if you were, imagine you're a Camarasaurus, and you had the really, really long neck to reach the top of trees that other dinosaurs couldn't quite reach, you would take your teeth and scrape them to scrape all the leaves off of the tree. You would eat them a little bit, but for the most part, you'd swallow them whole. Because if you can imagine, having spoons in your mouth is not a really great way to chew, right? So you would maybe chew a little bit, but mostly eat your leaves whole, and then you would have to swallow some rocks. So you would actually have some rocks in your stomach that would help grind up a lot of the plant matters that you would eat. So scientists have found a lot of sauropod remains that had rocks in their stomachs, and that's how they digested their plants. All right, so the teeth of a dinosaur are really important when we find them because they help tell us how a dinosaur ate, what a dinosaur ate, and things like that too. So those are the body fossils that help us kind of tell us more, give us more of a picture about dinosaurs. All right, so the next few body fossils that I want to show you, I want to play a guessing game. So I'm going to show you the body fossil, and I want you to either guess what body part you think it is, whether it's a tooth or a claw or a leg bone or a spine or something along those lines. And you can guess in chat, or if you can guess what dinosaur you think it might be from. So this is the first one. What body part do you think this one might be, or what dinosaur do you think it might be from? If you look, it's a little bit thicker on one side, tapers to a point. It's about 2 times the height of my head. So quite a large body fossil. All right, if you guessed that it came from a tail, you would be correct. So this body fossil is from a dinosaur that looks like this. It's a pretty popular one, if you've heard of this one, a Stegosaurus, right? And if you look at the tip of the Stegosaurus tail, you'll see 4 of these spikes. This is a tail spike from a Stegosaurus, or what we call a sagomizer. Now with this sagomizer, again, Stegosaurus, depending on the different species, could have 4 to 10 of these on the edge of their tail. And I would not want to encounter that tail because it was used for defense. So scientists believe that Stegosauruses would wave their tail around if they felt like they were threatened. And again, having spikes on your tail, that would be a pretty scary sight. The other thing that makes Stegosauruses unique are these plates along their backs, right? And I have a plate to show you as well. So if you look, this is our Stegosaurus plate. Again, it would have lined the back of the Stegosaurus. And these are a little bit more of a mystery to paleontologists. So paleontologists don't actually know what Stegosauruses use these for. They have a couple of guesses, a couple of hypotheses. They think that this plate would have been brightly colored so that Stegosauruses could, tell like, oh, there's a Stegosaurus with some more yellow on their plate. That must be the same species as me. Or if you look really closely at the plate, if you see these little wrinkles and lines that are going through each side of the plate, scientists think that there might have been blood vessels in there, kind of like the veins that are running down your arm. They think that they had blood vessels that went through these plates and acted kind of like an air conditioner. So it was used for what we call thermoregulation, or internal temperature control. So they would have, because dinosaurs didn't really sweat like we do if they were really, really hot. And if you're a really, really big animal, how do you get rid of all of that heat in your body, right? So they would actually, they think that the blood vessels with really hot blood would come up into the plates of the Stegosaurus. The wind would hit them and cool them down, and then that cool blood would go back down into the body. So it's kind of like air conditioner, basically. Got some air conditioner on these dinosaurs. All right, the next body fossil I want you to guess that it is the biggest body fossil I have on me today. Oh, it's a little heavy. Might need some help. It's these body fossils. Does anyone want to try to guess what body part this might have been? Maybe a claw, maybe some fangs. All right, if you said horns, you would have been correct. If you would have guessed the dinosaur that they went to and said Triceratops, you also would have been correct. These ones are our Triceratops horns. Now, these are actually pretty small as far as Triceratops horns go. Triceratops horns would have gotten a little bit bigger than this, but they're what we call the brow horns, kind of like your eyebrows. They would have been up at the top of the Triceratops. And Triceratops means 3 horned face, right? So I don't have a nose horn of a Triceratops, but if you wanted to make a Triceratops face, you can use your 2 fingers as your brow horns and your thumb as your nose horn, and you can make the best Triceratops face at the camera right now. And these ones, again, were used for defense. Scientists think that they were used for defense. But Triceratops, again, had those 3 horns on its face, had this frill, the bony frill on the back of the head. That, again, is a mystery to scientists what it was used for. They think, again, like the Stegosaurus, it was used a little bit for thermoregulation, and also that it had bright colors on it, like my model has yellow on it, that it could be used to look pretty for the ladies. If you think of like a peacock spreading its feathers with all of the bright colors, scientists think that Triceratops might have also had some bright colors to look pretty for the ladies. They also have our beaks on them. And then they also would have had the dental battery. So again, these teeth in the back of their mouths that help them grind up the plant matter that they chewed. So Triceratops belongs to the family Ceratopsians. Again, they mean horn face. So there's a ton of different diversity. If you've heard of Styracosaurus, or the one that I mentioned earlier, Pachyrhinosaurus, they all were part of the Ceratopsian family. All right, and the last one I want to show you is from one of the more popular dinosaur families. It's this body fossil. And I'm going to hold it up to my face so you can kind of see. It's about the length of my face. It's curved. It has a ridge kind of going along the edge of it. Can anyone guess what body part they think this might be, or what dinosaur they think it might have belonged to? I'll give you a hint. So this belonged to the terrible tyrant king of the dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. If you all have heard of that dinosaur, it's one of our most popular ones, correct? This one right here. They would have had their 2 claws on the tip of their fingers. And again, if this is about the size of my face, having 2 of those, not something that I would want to see. But with these ones, if you were a Tyrannosaurus Rex, you would have them on your hands here. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, they're part of the family called theropods. And they include like the Velociraptor, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Archaeopteryx, the Spinosaurus, all of those really big meat-eating dinosaurs that walked on 2 legs. And so you can see they have those. And this was the family that eventually branched off and turned into the modern day birds. So a lot of scientists believe that Tyrannosaurus Rex had feathers, which is what you see on my model here. And they would have been used for either camouflage or protection, protecting that neck from any other Tyrannosaurus Rex that might want to give it a bite. But yeah, if you wanted to make your best Tyrannosaurus Rex impression, you could right now give a roar at your screen. Again, with the 2 fingers here, a lot of people think that Tyrannosaurus Rex would have looked like this, but actually scientists have found that their hands face each other. So they could give you a little Tyrannosaurus Rex hug. So if you wanted to make a Tyrannosaurus Rex impression and roar, arr, got that one. All right, so those are the body fossils that I have for you today. I'm going to turn it back to Laura Beth, who's going to answer a couple more of your questions. And then also we'll have time for a selfie. Bye.
All right, so you guys have had so many questions. It's hard to choose which ones we want to answer, but so many of you were asking how many species of dinosaurs we have. So I'll go ahead and tell you, we don't have an exact number of how many species, but it's somewhere between 800 and 1,000 species of dinosaurs all over the world. And new dinosaurs are actually discovered quite often, about every other week. So one dinosaur every 2 weeks. And they are found, or dinosaur fossils are found all over the world on every single continent, which is super cool. Here in North Carolina, where we are, if you were curious, we don't have that many dinosaur species. We have about 2 different types. And that's because during the time of the dinosaurs, a lot of our state was underwater. And so we have a lot more aquatic animals. And dinosaurs weren't really swimming in the oceans during that time. If something looks like a dinosaur and it was swimming in the ocean, it's technically a swimming reptile. All right, let's see. Barbara wanted to know, what is the longest living dinosaur? We don't know a whole lot about the age of every single dinosaur, but what's really cool is when we find a lot of different specimens from one species, we can learn so much more about that animal. And so for a lot of dinosaurs, we only have like, a couple of teeth or maybe some rib bones to go off of. But for the T-Rex, we actually have about 30 specimens, 30 individuals. So we can gather data from all of those specimens and learn a lot more. So for the T-Rex, we know that it got to be about 30 years old, maybe a little younger. So that's really all we have to go on right now, is for the age of the dinosaurs. Okay, and then one of my favorite questions, this was from Samar and Kamal. What do dinosaurs sound like? We only really know this about one dinosaur, and it is a type of hadrosaur. So remember when Sam showed you the teeth that you would grind, that they would grind in their mouth like this? That was a type of hadrosaurid. And the type of dinosaur that would make a noise is the Parasaurolophus. And that had this big crest up here. And paleontologists have actually 3D printed a model of that crest, and they knew from that it could make a trumpeting kind of sound. So we can really only guess the other types of sounds that were made, but that's one that we have a really good guess about what it sounded like. And then what color were they? Again, we can kind of only guess about the colors of dinosaurs. In some cases, when we find eggs, the egg shell might be preserved so well that we can get a chemical fossil from it, and we can look at the structure and kind of guess what kind of color it was. Because a lot of our coloration comes from, the colors of cells in our body. So think about, like, I have freckles, right? That's a bunch of like melanin all clumped together. So we can kind of see stuff like that in feathers or eggshells, but it's really an educated guess. I'll do one more question before we do our selfie really quickly, because so many of you wanted to know how dinosaurs evolved into birds. And really what we can think of, dinosaurs, there were so many different families and groups, and there was just one group that at the end of the Cretaceous period, when that asteroid hit, this group, for whatever reason, it was able to survive the catastrophic events that killed off a lot of other animals. So perhaps it could go underground and be protected. Perhaps it could survive off of only eating seeds or other animals that survived those changes. And this group, over millions and millions of years, it developed some of the characteristics similar to birds today. And I'll just show you a couple of fossils that help us link that group to birds. This is one that I showed you earlier. Remember we said it had 3 toes? If you look at this and you compare it to bird feet around today, they look very, very similar. Same thing with the eggs, and looking at the way that the dinosaurs cared for their young, that is a huge clue connecting them to dinosaurs. And then of course, sometimes we actually do find the fossilized feathers. All right, so I don't want to run out of time, so we're gonna go ahead and get ready for our selfie. What I want you to do, I want you to gather in front of your computer screen or your TV screen and get your camera ready. I'm gonna bring out an awesome fossil. This is just a replica. In fact, most of our fossils are replicas because real fossils are very heavy and we don't want to break them. We also don't want to destroy them just by rubbing our fingerprints and getting, sweat and lotion and stuff all over them. That can actually degrade the fossils. So a lot of our things are replicas. And if you want to go ahead and take a guess as to what dinosaur this is, I'll let you think about that for a moment. We can look at its teeth, as Sam said, and think about what it eats. If you said T-Rex, you are correct. This is the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Of course, their skulls got to be way bigger. This is a model of a smaller T-Rex, right? So I'm going to hold it off to the side and let you guys gather around, get your cameras ready. We can't wait to see your big smiles. I'll do a little countdown, and at the end of the countdown, we're going to say teeth, because that's one of our favorite fossils, because we can learn so much from dinosaur teeth, okay? All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Teeth! All right. Did you guys get it? Make sure that you tag us on social media when you share it with all of your communities. You can tag at Skype Classroom, and you can tag the museum where we work. It's going to be at Natural Sciences. We can't wait to see the pictures that you guys share with us. And yeah, all right. So we are going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you again so much for tuning in with us. Don't forget, if you liked this program, this is something that we offer year-round on the Skype in the Classroom community. And not just this topic. We have a couple other topics as well. And they're always free. And we are going to update our availability very, very soon. So get ready, check us out on Skype in the Classroom. And again, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.